Well, today we're going to be going over all 7 rings inside the game, and I'm going to be ranking them too based by my own opinion, so don't hate me too much. But I will say I did have a really hard time ranking some of these because there were just some things that were so different on one compared to the other, and it made it a little bit tricky. And real quick, I want to give a shout out to Hey, Cappy Fish, and Khalil. But the way I usually rank things inside the game, I don't do the typical tier list. I just kind of go what's the worst to what's the best. The first ring we're going to be talking about is what I'm considering the worst one inside the game. And a little spoiler, all 3 of these first ones are going to be the non-S grade ones. So the first one's going to be the Eagle Ring, and right off the bat, we get a global attack plus 10%. And every 4 turns, we're going to be summoning 2 light spears, which are going to be doing about 30% of our overall attack. At the same time, we'll also be getting our basic attack will have an increase of 25% for 2 turns. Now this will pop off right at round 1 and then pop up 4 rounds later. Now before I explain why I'm putting this in last place, let me go over the other 2 non-S grades. Now the next one that I'm calling the second worst is going to be the Magic Ring, and this one will also have a global attack plus 10%. Now this one, however, will go and launch 2 lightnings out every 3 rounds, and that'll hit all enemies on the screen. Similar to the Eagle Ring with the spears, the Magic Ring with the lightning is also going to be hitting about 30% each. So the next one is going to be the Guardian Ring, and this one actually has a global HP plus 10% for the rare stat. And I know what you're thinking, he's rating the HP above the attack. That doesn't make sense, but let me just finish on this here and we'll explain why. So this one will launch out 2 daggers every 4 rounds, and those daggers actually hit for 45% of our overall attack. And immediately after those daggers launching, we'll then get a shield for 10% of our HP. So why did I rank this one better than the other 2? Well, let's talk about the Eagle Ring first. That's going to be 2 spears at 30%, and that's going to be every 4 rounds. So I figured at 12 rounds, we're doing about 180% our damage. And yes, that will get the 2 turns of our basic attack having 25%, but correct me if I'm wrong, the basic attack is going to be our regular weapon hitting, our counter attack, and even our combo hits. Now the Magic Ring, that one however though, is going to be every 3 rounds on it, so technically we're doing 240% over that 12 round period, and once again, we're striking all the enemies. And besides the lightning, that's it. We don't have an additional basic attack damage, we don't have a shield itself. It's pretty much the lightning, and it's a matter of are you going to have more than 1 enemy on the screen. Now the Guardian, however, with that being every 4 turns and each one being 45% doing damage, after a 12 round period, I'm actually hitting for 270% my damage. With the Guardian, my attack was about 100,000 less than when I was going in with the Magic and the Eagle gave me about 1.8 over those 12 round period, but the Magic one did do a little bit over 2.6 million. But even with that 100,000 attack less, I still had a lot more health going in, and I even got that shield every 4 rounds. Still managed to do about 2.5 million damage. Now where I did feel like the Eagle was definitely the worst one, I did have a hard time deciding between this Magic and Guardian, but given my playstyle, I play a lot around skills and using daggers, so for me, the Guardian just seemed like the better pick. Now moving on to the S grade rings, all 4 of these will have the uncommon skill as global attack plus 10%. And then the epic skill is going to be a global attack plus 25%. Now as somebody that's sitting on a majority, 6 of them actually, of the Shadow Ring, I'm disappointed to say that I found this to be the worst of the S grades. Every 4 rounds we'll be launching out an Ice Spike, and that's about 30% of our overall damage. And this too will start off when you go in at round 1. And if you're asking yourself, well hey, there's no extra special stats in that, why aren't you rating the non-S grades above the S grade? Well that's because of those global attacks that we're getting on both the uncommon and the rare stat. The next one after that is going to be the Dragon Ball, and every 3 turns on this, we're going to be launching out a spear, which also does about 30%. However though, we're going to be getting a crit rate added to our basic attacks for 10%, and that'll last 2 turns. Just know that that crit rate is going to be how often you crit, not the actual increase to the damage of you critting. Now the last 2, I'm having a hard time figuring out which one I should put in first and which one I put in second, because they're kind of 2 different scenarios on them. The Judgment Ring, for example, is going to be launching out 2 lightnings at 30% each, and then we're going to be getting a crit rate of 10% added to our skills for 2 rounds. Now where the Shadow, the Dragon Ball, and the Judgment are all going to be able to pop off their skill right away at the beginning, the Fire Ring is going to be a little different. I guess I should call it the Sky Flame because that's what it's actually called, but this is actually going to start on round 4, and then every single round after that, we're going to be launching a Flame Strike. Now that Flame Strike will also hit around that 30% mark, and it will have the chance to give a burn stack to the enemy. Now that first burn stack did about 20% of my overall damage. However though, when the second flame strike came around, I hit for a little bit more. I was originally hitting for 385 on the first one, and then the second one and everyone after that was hitting for 399. Now even though I didn't get an extra stack of burn on the second try, the enemy still took that burn of 257. However though, by the time that I did add a second stack, now the enemy was getting hit by the flame strike and now getting hits for 514, which is going to be double the burn. So when it comes to you killing mobs or just working your way through, trying to kill things fast, that's probably where the Judgment's going to be the better way to go. However though, when you're going up against those bosses and those rounds are really dragging out, I think the Sky Flame might actually do a little better. So those are my findings. You don't have to agree with me, but I'm really curious to know how you guys would rank this, and if you would switch them around, let us know why in the comments. If you're trying to decide what you think the best armor you should be investing in, take a look at this video right here. Thanks for watching, and remember, I pick my butt.